My brothers and sisters, you were not created to be a copy. You were not designed to live your life tracing someone else's blueprint. You were divinely engineered to innovate, to pioneer, to lead. And yet so many people waste their lives chasing after others, trying to fit into a mold they were never meant to fit. Let me tell you something. Imitation is limitation. The moment you begin chasing after what someone else has, you're confessing with your actions, I don't believe what God put inside of me is enough. Imitation is limitation. The moment you set your eyes on someone else's success and decide to trace their steps exactly, you've already placed a ceiling on your potential. There's something dangerous about trying to copy what someone else is doing. It might look like wisdom because they're successful. It might feel safe because the path is already paved. But the truth is, when you imitate, you're not operating from the creativity and power that's been placed inside of you. You're operating from fear. Fear that what you have isn't enough. Fear that your own path won't work. Fear that your gifts aren't as valuable as theirs. That fear will always keep you small, because imitation can never lead to innovation. When you look at others and think, if I just do what they're doing, I'll get what they have, you're making a dangerous assumption. You're assuming their path was built for you, but you weren't designed for their path. You weren't called to their assignment. You weren't equipped for their battles. You don't know what it cost them to walk where they're walking. And here's the reality. Even if you could somehow replicate every move they made, you still wouldn't get the same result because you don't have their anointing. You don't have their calling. You don't have their timeline. There's a difference between learning from someone and imitating them. Learning allows you to gain principles. Imitation locks you into patterns. Principles are transferable. Patterns are not. When you understand a principle, you can adapt it to your purpose and your situation. But when you mimic a pattern, you're trying to fit yourself into someone else's story. And every time you do that, you lose a piece of your own identity. What most people don't realize is that imitation doesn't just limit what you do, it limits who you become. When you're so busy chasing after other people's definitions of success, you forget to define success for yourself. You measure your value by their progress. You measure your timing by their milestones. You measure your worth by their applause. But you were not designed to be a duplicate. You were designed to be an original. Originals may take longer to be recognized, but they are the ones who change the world. If you spend all your time trying to sound like them, look like them, move like them, you'll never discover the sound, the look, the movement that is uniquely yours. There's a reason no two fingerprints are the same. There's a reason no two voices are identical. That's not an accident. That's intentional design. And until you embrace that intentionality, you'll keep limiting yourself to being a second-rate version of someone else rather than a first-rate version of yourself. When you imitate, you're saying to God, what you gave me isn't enough. I need to borrow what you gave them. And that mindset will rob you of the very power you're seeking. You can't borrow someone else's calling. You can't steal someone else's favor. You can't walk through doors that were never meant for you and expect to thrive on the other side. Limitation doesn't feel like limitation at first. It feels comfortable. It feels familiar. It feels safe because there's a map to follow. But safe doesn't change the world. Safe doesn't stretch your capacity. Safe doesn't pull out the treasure that's hidden inside of you. Only faith does that. Only risk does that. Only stepping out into the unknown, armed with nothing but vision and obedience, can unlock the life you were born to live. Imitation is limitation because it tricks you into believing that what's outside of you is more powerful than what's inside of you. And as long as you believe that, you will never tap into your full potential. You will never see what could have been created through your hands, your mind, your words, your ideas, your business, your ministry. Everything you're looking for in them has already been placed in you in seed form. You can't win your race while staring at someone else's lane. The truth is, every person has a unique assignment, a unique journey, and a unique timeline. When you spend your energy watching the progress of others, you're taking your focus off the very thing you've been called to do. Comparison is a thief. It doesn't just steal your joy, it steals your momentum, your creativity, and your clarity. The more you look at someone else's lane, the more unstable you become in your own. You lose sight of your vision because your attention is divided. You lose your pace because you're trying to match theirs. You lose your confidence because you start believing their success means you're behind. What you don't realize is that their race is not your race. Their lane wasn't designed for you. Their pace wasn't calibrated for your stride. Their obstacles weren't tailored to your strengths. The moment you fix your eyes on them, you disqualify yourself from the flow you were meant to run in. Focus is one of the most powerful forces on earth, but it only works when it's directed at the right target. If your focus is broken, your progress will be broken too. Think about a runner in a race. If they keep glancing sideways to see who's catching up or who's ahead, they waste precious seconds. Not only that, but they also risk drifting into someone else's lane and getting disqualified. Distraction always leads to disqualification, not because someone took your place, but because you abandoned your own. The same thing happens in life. When you're so consumed with measuring your pace against someone else's, you're no longer running your race. You're running theirs. And nobody wins when they try to run a race they were never built for. Every assignment comes with its own pace. Some races are sprints. Some are marathons. Some require long seasons of preparation that feel like delay, but are actually training ground for the weight of what's coming. If you're looking at someone in a sprint season while you're in your training season, you'll convince yourself you're falling behind. You're not behind, you're being built, but you'll never see that if your eyes are fixed on them instead of forward. The problem with looking at other people's progress is that you can only see the surface. You don't know what it cost them to get there. You don't know the nights they cried. You don't know the sacrifices they made. You don't know the lessons they had to learn in private. You don't know the burdens they carry that you can't see, and yet you measure yourself against a version of their story that's incomplete. Comparison distorts reality. It makes you underestimate your own journey and overestimate theirs. It causes you to despise small beginnings instead of embracing them as necessary steps. There's something sacred about staying in your lane. When you keep your eyes forward, you give yourself permission to grow at the pace that was designed for you. You allow yourself to hear divine instruction without the noise of other people's applause or opinions. You begin to realize that progress isn't always visible. Sometimes the greatest acceleration happens underground where nobody else can see it. Your lane is your responsibility. It's where your gifts make sense. It's where your voice carries weight. It's where your purpose unfolds. But the moment you step out of your lane, you step out of alignment. You begin striving instead of flowing. You begin imitating instead of creating. You begin hustling for significance instead of walking in confidence. And all of that slows you down because you weren't built for that lane. The only way to win is to keep your eyes forward, your feet moving, and your heart anchored in your own assignment. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but to the one who endures and stays faithful in their lane. Your lane was custom, made for you, and no one else can run it the way you can. Chasing others distracts you from cultivating your own gifts. When you're focused on what everyone else is doing, you stop nurturing the very thing that was placed inside you to set you apart. Every gift you've been given requires attention, development, and discipline. It's like a seed. A seed has all the potential to grow into a tree, but if you never plant it, if you never water it, if you never tend to the soil, it will never become what it was designed to be. The tragedy is that too many people spend their lives chasing after someone else's tree and never realize they're neglecting their own seed. The temptation to chase others often comes from believing their gifts are more valuable than yours. You look at their success, their influence, their talents, and you start thinking, if only I had what they have, I could make it too. That mindset is a lie. You don't need what they have because you've already been equipped with everything necessary for your assignment. But as long as your eyes are fixed on their gifts, you'll never take the time to develop yours. You'll keep running from opportunity to opportunity, trying to mimic what's already been done, instead of building something original from the ground up. Your gifts are like muscles. If you don't use them, they weaken. If you don't train them, they atrophy. But when you invest in them daily, even in small ways, they grow stronger and sharper. You don't have to start with greatness. You have to start with faithfulness. It's not about having the biggest gift or the loudest gift. It's about being faithful with what's in your hands right now. Faithfulness in the little produces multiplication in the much. Chasing others also causes you to operate out of alignment. You were designed to function in a specific flow, but when you're too busy running after someone else's calling, you step out of your flow and into frustration. Frustration is often a sign you're working on something you weren't assigned to do. You're trying to make their gift fit your life, and it doesn't fit because it was never yours to carry. The danger is that chasing others can feel productive. You're moving, you're busy, you're doing things. But movement without direction is just distraction. It's possible to expend all your energy and get nowhere because you're climbing the wrong ladder. You don't need to be everywhere doing everything. You need to be planted where you're supposed to be, doing what you've been graced to do. Your gifts will only grow in the environment they were meant for. There's also an emotional cost to chasing others. It breeds insecurity and resentment. You start to see life as a competition instead of a calling. You begin measuring your worth by their applause, your progress by their timeline, and your potential by their results. But your value was never meant to be determined externally. It was set before you even began. The more you chase, the more you lose sight of that truth, and the further you drift from the unique lane you were born to run. Cultivation requires stillness and focus. It requires you to pause long enough to ask, what's in my hand? What's the next step for me? How can I sharpen what I've been given? While you're chasing others, you're not asking those questions. You're not listening for direction. You're not sowing into your own field. And the field you ignore is the field that grows weeds instead of fruit. Every great harvest begins with a season of hiddenness. The roots grow before the branches appear. If you can discipline yourself to stop running after what's already visible in others and commit to nurturing what's invisible in you, you'll step into a level of impact and influence that chasing could never produce. You are not a chaser, you are a creator with a unique blueprint. There is something placed inside you that no one else on this planet has. It is not a copy of someone else's design. It is not a recycled version of another person's purpose. It is original, one of a kind, and entirely your own. When you spend your time and energy chasing after others, you are trading your uniqueness for imitation. You are abandoning the masterpiece within you to settle for a replica of someone else's work. and no replica ever carries the same power as the original. You were not born to follow trends, you were born to set them. You were not created to duplicate someone else's assignment. You were created to fulfill your own, but as long as you keep chasing what others have, you will never unlock what you have been given. There is a blueprint in you that has not been seen before. It was designed for you and you alone. No one else can carry it, no one else can activate it, and no one else can manifest it because it does not belong to them. It belongs to you. Creators move differently than chasers. Chasers wait for validation. Chasers wait for permission. Chasers wait for someone else to prove it works before they try. But creators step into uncharted territory. Creators see beyond what is and into what could be. Creators don't need to see the entire staircase before they take the first step. They understand that the vision they carry is enough to begin. The reason so many people default to chasing is because creating requires courage. It is easier to follow a path that is already built than to carve one through unknown ground. It feels safer to cling to familiar patterns than to take the risk of doing something no one else has done. But safety is the enemy of destiny. If you are unwilling to step into the unknown, you will forfeit the life you were designed to live. The blueprint within you is not activated by watching others. It is activated by obedience, by action, by persistence. You cannot create from a place of comparison. Comparison clouds your vision and paralyzes your creativity. It tricks you into thinking that the value you bring is insignificant, that your gifts are too small, that your voice does not matter. But what you carry is not small. What you carry is not insignificant. What you carry is the answer to someone else's problem, the solution to someone else's need, the light in someone else's darkness. A creator understands that their assignment is not about them. It is about the impact it will have on others. When you begin to see yourself as a creator, you stop striving and start flowing. You stop hustling for approval and start building from conviction. You stop asking for the map and start trusting the compass within you. The world is not changed by those who chase. It is changed by those who create. Every breakthrough you admire began with someone who was willing to step out of the crowd and trust their blueprint. They didn't have all the answers, they didn't have all the resources, but they had a vision and the courage to act on it. That same courage is available to you. That same creative power has been placed in your hands. You were not given that blueprint for decoration. You were given that blueprint to build something that will outlast you. The surest way to fail is to try being someone else. You were never designed to wear another person's identity, and every time you attempt to fit into their mold, you diminish the power of your own. When you try to speak like them, think like them, create like them, you silence the unique expression that was placed in you before you were even born. You can study their methods, you can learn from their principles, but the moment you abandon your own voice to copy theirs, you step out of alignment with your purpose. There is a weight to living in authenticity that can feel heavy at times, but the weight of pretending to be someone else is far heavier. Pretending demands constant performance. It forces you to hide your flaws and fears because you are trying to uphold an image that isn't even yours. The more you try to maintain that false image, the more drained and frustrated you become because you are laboring for something that was never meant for you to carry. The strength and grace that sustain you only flow in the place you were assigned. If you step into someone else's assignment, you step outside the flow, and everything becomes a struggle. There's a reason you are the way you are. Your gifts, your perspective, your experiences, your personality, they were all shaped to fulfill a specific purpose. When you reject that design and attempt to replicate someone else's, You disrupt the process of becoming who you were meant to be. You might gain temporary approval from others, but you lose long-term fulfillment within yourself. That emptiness you feel is not because you are failing to reach their level of success. It's because you are failing to honor your own path. The truth is that the people you're trying to imitate had to fight their own battles to stand where they are. You don't know their private struggles. You don't know what they had to endure to carry what they carry. And even if you did, their journey still wouldn't work for you because you weren't shaped for it. What worked for them could crush you because you weren't built for their process. You were built for your process. Every time you strive to be someone else, you give up your own authority. You were created with power, but that power can only flow through authenticity. Imitation blocks that flow because it is rooted in fear. Fear that your voice is not enough. Fear that your gift is too small. Fear that your path is too slow. Fear will always push you to copy because it convinces you that you can't create. But fear is a liar. You were born to create. You were born to lead. You were born to bring something into this world that has never existed before. The world does not need another version of the person you're trying to be. It needs the fullness of who you are. Every time you suppress your uniqueness to conform to someone else's standard, you rob the world of the contribution only you can make. You rob yourself of the peace that comes from living authentically, and you rob your future of the breakthroughs that only come when you embrace your true identity. Trying to be someone else is exhausting because it is unnatural. You will never feel settled, never feel complete, never feel free because you are operating outside of your design. You can succeed on the surface and still fail inwardly because success that comes from pretense can never satisfy the soul. Real success is not about achieving what others have. It's about becoming who you were born to be and walking fully in the calling assigned to your life. When you create your own path, you inspire others to do the same. There is something powerful about a person who refuses to conform, who refuses to follow the crowd, who refuses to settle for what has already been done. That kind of person becomes a signal to others that they, too, can step out of the box they have been placed in. Your courage to break away from tradition and expectation gives others permission to discover the possibilities hidden within themselves. People are not moved by perfection. They are moved by authenticity. They are drawn to those who are bold enough to live out their unique assignment without apology. The world is full of people waiting for someone to show them it is possible. They are watching, often silently, looking for an example of what it means to walk in alignment with purpose. When you create your own path, you are not just impacting your own life. You are shifting atmospheres for generations to come. Every choice you make to step into your originality creates ripple effects beyond what you can see. Your decision to build instead of chase, to innovate instead of imitate, to lead instead of follow, will echo in the lives of people you may never meet. Creating your own path is not about being celebrated. It is about being obedient to the blueprint inside of you. It is about honoring the gifts you have been entrusted with and multiplying them so they serve others. Every great movement in history started with one person who dared to step off the beaten road. That person faced resistance, misunderstanding, and isolation. But their persistence opened doors for countless others. You may not even realize how many people are watching your steps right now, waiting to see if you will keep going, waiting to see if you will break through, waiting to see if you will show them what's possible. The path you are called to create is not for everyone to understand. It will often not make sense to those who have chosen comfort over calling. They may criticize, question, or even oppose what you are building, because it challenges their way of thinking. But every time you choose to move forward despite the noise, you send a message that freedom is available. Your path becomes a roadmap for others, not because they are meant to copy it, but because it awakens in them the courage to find their own. You are not called to blend in. You are called to stand out, to stand firm, to stand as a light in the middle of a world addicted to comparison. When you create from a place of authenticity, you break the cycle of fear that has paralyzed so many. You disrupt the pattern of chasing and striving that keeps people locked in frustration. You invite them to consider that maybe, just maybe, there is something inside them worth cultivating, something original, something powerful, something necessary for the time and place they were born into. There is legacy in the path you are creating. It is not just about you. It is about your children and your children's children. It is about the people assigned to your voice, your gifts, your message. Every step you take toward your assignment clears the way for someone else. Every obstacle you overcome gives someone else the strength to rise. Every break through you experience sends a signal that they can break through too. You may not see the impact right away, but every act of obedience is building a foundation that others will stand on. When you refuse to chase and choose instead to create, you are not only aligning yourself with your own purpose, you are activating purpose in others. Your boldness will awaken boldness in them. Your authenticity will call out authenticity in them. Your originality will unlock originality in them. That is how movements are born, not by people who chase, but by people who create and lead from the front.